Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast. We're going to talk about chipping to slow down the pass rush on both sides of the ball for the Titans, how important that is for them this season and particularly this Sunday. Backside wide receivers who may be wide open but not factor into things. The lack of separation by said receivers on opening day and what a concern that might be going forward, and just how much it means for the Titans to be a dominant run defense. I'm brought to you by Jaspers. We'll talk about them in a bit. Let's get right into it. We're going to turn what might have made for an interesting article or post into the lead of this podcast, talking about chipping. Jeffery Simmons was super complimentary to the Saints for what they did against him, chipping inside with the back. Something that's a bit unusual, but that the Titans are probably going to see again. The Titans did a lot of chipping themselves, and they're certainly going to need to do it again against the Chargers to help Andre Dillard, who can expect to see a lot of Khalil Mack and Chris Hubbard against Joey Bosa. We'll start on the defensive side here as we look at this. Shane Bowen said that it was a little bit different to see the Saints using a back on third down, usually a fullback, something that he thought was successful enough that the Titans are going to have to be ready for it on a week-to-week basis now. First, let's listen to Arden Key talk about this, about being chipped, and then a follow-up with how he scouts potential chippers. He kind of misunderstands my follow-up question where I ask about how he could minimize being chipped. I didn't mean minimize the amount of times that he gets chipped. I meant kind of minimize the effectiveness of the chipper. Nevertheless, I wanted to share what he had to say here.
Yeah, just different angles. How they chip it? Are they trying to chip me wider? Are they trying to chip me inside? The departure of the tackle. Just different situations on where I'm at in that chip look and being able to get out the chip and being able to rush the tackle the best way I could.
How effectively can you minimize a chip?
You can't really minimize the chip. The offensive coordinator say that guy's getting chipped that game, then that's what it is. Because last game, Jeff got chipped probably every third down that we was out there. So, I mean, if the offensive coordinator game planning for you and to chip you, then you're going to see the chip regardless.
And Simmons was getting so much of this from the Saints, and since Key talked there about studying kind of the angles in particular that he gets from tight ends and from running backs who are trying to help the offensive linemen slow him down. I was curious to see what Simmons had to say about how in his preparation, and we know he's a good film study guy who really puts a lot into studying the techniques of the offensive linemen, the guards, centers that he'll face during a game. How much does he look at the guys who are going to be chipping him? And the answer is not that much, not really at all. Here's an interesting clip from Jeffery Simmons.
I would say the Saints did a hell of a job at it with using their running backs, chipping inside. You know, I talked to the T, I talked to everyone. Being a dominant interior guy, you're going to see that a lot, especially. But I would say they're not going to be able to do it that much, because our edge guys got a lot of presence. Having Arden and Harold back on the edge, and that's good for me. Like, I'm not a selfish player, so even if they want to keep doing it, why not keep doing it? And them guys on the outside are just going to keep eating.
You study those potential chippers the same way you study the blockers that you're going to see?
I don't worry about them chippers. My goal is to win against the offensive linemen. When they come, excuse my language, shit hurt. I think got me in the rib a couple times, but I don't go in there thinking like, oh, I'm about to get chipped. My goal is to, because I know it's like when you get in the slide, and I beat the center, and then the running back coming. So I don't study them chippers. My goal is just to focus on the offensive lineman. If it's come, it's come, and hopefully, I can see it one good time so I can chin check the running back.
Sounds like they're more pests. You're dealing with the big animals on the line, and these are more.
It's like one of them that ant bites. When you it make you flinch a little bit. That's how that is, because I'm dealing with a lot right here, but then I get this, so I'm like, I might say a wasp sting because it's kind of like I said, it stings a little bit, but it's wear off a little bit. But like I said, it's one of the things that I expect to see a lot. I got it a couple times last year, but this past weekend I got it a lot. So we'll see how it goes from here.
So it's a wasp sting that'll wear off. But Simmons certainly there sounded like he finds those chips kind of more of a mild annoyance than a big disturbance while he's working his way past a different sort of presence in front of him with the offensive lineman. I took this to Derrick Henry, who obviously works the other side of this, trying to chip and help slow down some defensive linemen on their way to Ryan Tannehill, and he kind of took it as a badge of honor. If he's an annoyance to a pass rusher, he'll take that, and that counts. It seems like from the smile on his face during this answer, that's a victory to him if he can be annoying.
Don't them guys get tired of it and not rush as hard as they do. Especially the premier rushers. Want to slow them down as much as possible, and if it's annoying, I mean it's working. So.
Side. So Trevon Wesco, Chig Okonkwo, Derrick Henry, Tyjae Spears, maybe even Julius Chestnut are going to have to stall, slow, delay, redirect, be a wasp or an annoyance to Khalil Mack, to Joey Bosa, for the Titans to pass the ball effectively against the Chargers. These guys are premier edge rushers, a level above even Arden Key and Harold Landry based on their resumes and work product up to this point of their career, certainly. Now, Titans have to do this too much because they have not had elite tackles for some time. On the right side, since Jack Conklin, who was an all-pro, unfortunate to hear he tore up his knee again in Cleveland and is lost for the season. On the left side, since Taylor Lewan was playing his best football for the Titans, where you could say, oh, Lewan out there on Khalil Mack, let's go. He doesn't need to be offered any help. That's an athletic matchup. He's going to take care of things out there, and that's terrific. Titans haven't been in a position like that in a long time, which means 2/5 of the Titans' eligible receivers are preoccupied on, plays that are not super quick pass plays in the passing game. I've always kind of felt like that is part of why the Titans' offense can be nondescript a lot of the time. And certainly while you've got two chippers going on, if A.J. Brown's downfield winning in a big way, taking a well-designed pass in stride and getting great yak, you can do great things. But, and I'm not thinking Trevon Wesco is going to be scoring huge in the passing game as a target. But it does limit the offense somewhat. Mike Vrabel's about to talk us through it. And the routes of those chippers are limited after they're done doing their chipping.
They just, they chipped us. Saints started chipping us, and I still think that there's some ways that you can get those guys involved. I mean, they won't be at the normal depth, but it's going to take a group effort. When you play some of these premier players in the league, to try to make sure that we're taking care of the quarterback, we're helping. So just having a plan for where those guys go and being able to help the quarterback and somewhere in the route after they do it. Making sure their first job is to slow them down, put them where the offensive line wants them to be, whether that's inside or making them run around, but then having an opportunity to get into the route. So certainly not going to be at 15 yards when they're into the route after they chip, but they'll be somewhere out there.
Okonkwo said he actually likes it sometimes, the chipping role, because the chipper gets lost by the defense. And that made me immediately think of some goal line plays, right, where you see a lot of times a tight end will act like he's engaged with a tackle. or a defensive end or an outside linebacker, and then release and be alone to catch a touchdown pass. And so take that, move that more towards the middle of the field. And Chig feels like he gets some opportunities off of that sometimes. Something to look for in the Titans-Chargers matchup and beyond. And look, this is the way the Titans offense has to operate. This is something the Titans defense has to operate against. But boy, on the offensive side, it would be great if they could get to a place where they had an offensive tackle again, like a Lawan in his prime, like a Michael Roos in his prime, like a Jack Conklin in his prime, like David Stewart in his prime, who could handle some of these things more often by themselves, or a lot of the time by themselves, which gives you a lot more options to run a full variety of routes for the offense, and stress the defense in different ways. Now is a great time for you, if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, or if you're watching on YouTube, to flip over to paulkuharsky.com and subscribe to become a member. It says here on the bottom of the screen on YouTube, $5.99 a month. If you get an annual membership, you can get that down to $5.49 a month. Look, it's a great value of your Titans coverage puzzle. Different than everybody else. You get Blake Bedingfield's scouting reviews and previews of each game. You get Mike Herndon's analytical column every Wednesday. You get video conversations with me once during the week, once from the press box after each game, plus everything that I write. All for the price of a beer, a cocktail, cup of coffee, less than that. So come join the club. You'll also be on a private Facebook page where a lot of very affordable tickets from people in the club looking to get them in the hands of other people in the club were posted about this week. Another advantage, 5% off at Tennessee tickets. May not seem a lot when you're buying Titans tickets, but when you're buying Taylor Swift tickets and a couple other concert tickets, it adds up to a great deal in a short amount of time. So come join the fun. Receivers open on the backside. There were a few times in New Orleans where Ryan Tannehill was locked in on one side of the field, and he had somebody really open up on the other side of the field. Some of those seemed to me like late check down chances he did not get to. One of them is noted by Mike Herndon, who I just mentioned in my advertisement, in his excellent column at the site this week, involved busted coverage on Treylon Burks on the left on what was Tannehill's third interception, which was when he really didn't look to anybody but DeAndre Hopkins to the right. Tannehill was looking to the right from the start, and it was just a situation where he's never going to see Burks on the left, even though Burks very quickly raised his hand, in the universal, hey, look at me, I'm wide open gesture. So I wanted to kind of sort through, are there opportunities to see these backside receivers if they're breaking wide open, even when the play may be initially designed for the other side. Here's Vrabel more specifically on that play after we sorted through what we were talking about.
Can you give me a specific example? I just don't want to speak in generalities and then get quoted.
On the third pick, it looked like they busted coverage on Burks on the other side of the field.
I've referenced that, right? That's, when you go yes or no, when you go to the backside, you go to the receiver, the single receiver, you're picking a side, and don't hate the decision. It's single coverage, I think, and so we just underthrow it. Don't give them a chance. I didn't like the execution. But, yeah, there is going to be a side that you're going to start to and progress, and certainly, Treylon came out of the bunch free, and so that's, wish we just started over there looking at hindsight, but there's a lot of single receiver X's in this league, and, Hops caught a lot of passes over there. So there's a lot of other X's in this league in the backside of 3x1. So don't hate the decision. The execution's got to be better.
So it depends on the set and the play as to whether if something breaks free on the backside, you have a chance.
He's made up, most of these times, and in that specific example, Ryan, he's made up his mind that he's going over there. And if there's a concept that we're working to the bunch side, then we would certainly have expected him to see it. But that happens. I understand that.
So I then had a chance, or earlier had a chance to ask Tannehill broadly about missed opportunities on the backside of plays, and then specifically about that one. And this is where he started on Wednesday to get salty about being asked for some specifics out of his failure in New Orleans.
Yeah, there's certain areas where reads where you're picking a side, picking a matchup, and you're not going to be able to see the other side of the field. It sucks when that happens, right? Whenever you are on the wrong side, but you see it happen across the league every week. Watching multiple games, and it happens, right? It's just part of playing the game. Feels good when you're on the right side, and then obviously sucks, when it happens on the backside.
Were there other times where there was maybe a check down opposite what you were looking at that maybe you could have gone to?
Man, you guys are trying to break down every play of the game, and there's a lot of areas where I want to be better and look forward to be better this week.
Right. So, were there more plays in this game where he was locked into one side of the field? I don't know. Obviously, they're not offering any specifics on that. Titans didn't get separation. We're going to talk about that. He didn't have a lot of guys to go to, but it sounds like there were maybe some plays where ultimately the progression would have gotten him somewhere where he had a better opportunity, and he ultimately didn't get there because he threw somewhere else earlier in the play. Earlier in the play, 3 times led to interceptions. Earlier in the play, 2 other times led to overthrows of guys who were wide open on touchdown plays. He was absolutely off. I'm expecting Tannehill to be a lot better on Sunday. Even if age is catching up to him, as a lot of people are saying, he's lost arm strength, decision-making, and all of that stuff. I think he can be a lot better than that, kind of calibrating for those things. We'll see. Titans are going to have to score some points in order to beat the Chargers, who are a high-scoring offense, and I think will manage to score some points against even the Titans' good defense. Titans are going to have to keep up. And to keep up, Ryan Tannehill is going to have to be a lot better, even if they get back to being very Derrick Henry centric. So we will see how all that goes. I'm brought to you by Jasper's. You can see their logo up in the corner over there that I'm pointing to with my head. It's a great bar and restaurant in Nashville, just between downtown and Midtown. Free parking is the number one feature that should get you in the door. But once you're in the door, you've got a great menu, great cocktails, great beer, great food. And then while you're waiting on the food, if you want to mess around, you can go play Pop-A-Shot or air hockey or skee ball to keep yourself busy, have some fun with your date, with your kids, with your business associates. You can go there alone, like I unfortunately wind up there a lot of times because it's closer to work than home for me. And I'll listen to a podcast and do some work reading, catch up on the latest NFL news. But it's a versatile place in the way that the Titans have acquired a lot of versatile players. So it's kind of like a Tennessee Titan of restaurants. I can't recommend it highly enough. Go there, eat there, drink there, dessert there, play some games, park for free. I give it my highest recommendation. You will enjoy yourself. Let's talk about X plays, explosive plays. Shane Bowen said on some of the big pass plays the Titans gave up in the opener in New Orleans, some of those were actually winning in pass rush, and they're actually throwing it before we're able to get there. Yeah, I mean, that's how it works. Bowen said 5 plays accounted for 160 yards in the pass game, and he was only counting the plays of 20 yards or more. If you go ahead and add in the 19-yard touchdown and a 17-yard pass play, there's 7 pass plays for 196 yards. That's 30% of the passes producing 65% of the yards. John Glennon, my good friend, kind of posed this question to Bowen. You know, if the aim is to stop the run and force teams to be one-dimensional, are you surprised it hasn't helped? The Titans are pretty good at making teams one-dimensional. And once they make them one-dimensional, they get burned by X plays all the time.
Yeah, you would like to think so. You know, you would like to think if they're going to sit back there and try to throw it, and we know they're not going to try to run it so much, like we should be able to rush a little bit better. We should be able to cover a little bit better. It all goes hand in hand, right? It takes 11 guys to stop the pass. 11 guys doing their job. The guys up front being able to affect the quarterback. The guys in the back end being able to cover and win their one-on-ones, and at the same time we're in zone coverage, we're in match coverage, being able to execute, right? See things the same way, and everybody be on the same page. So X plays are disappointing. Something we got to get fixed. It reared its head again, and it was that way early in the season last year.
So Shane Bowen says, X plays are disappointing, something we've got to get fixed. They've had to get X plays fixed most of the time when things have gone wrong for the defense. And so, you know, how much pride do you take in being the number one defense against the run, which they were last year, when it's paired with being 32nd against the pass? It's a hollow championship. The Titans, you know, usually if a team's really good in one of those departments, on offense or defense, the number in the other category isn't that great unless you're really outstanding on offense or defense, right? But the Titans being number one in run defense should come with, like, if they're really a good defense, 12th in pass defense, 15th or 16th in pass defense. When it's 1 and 32, it averages out to not being a very good defense. And this year, it's one game. They're 5th against the run, and they're 28th against the pass. It's trending the same way. And so if they hold the Chargers down, whether Austin Eckler with his bad ankle is playing or not, with Justin Herbert dropping back or taking shotgun snaps, if he's throwing X plays all over the field, what's the win in stopping the run? I mean, points is the number one thing, and the Titans did do well with points. They should win allowing 16 points. Now, I don't know that they're going to be able to hold the Chargers to 16 points. And X plays, you know, is the determination to stop the run a failed formula, at least without a premier cornerback in the mix? Long drives create more opportunities to go turn the ball over, to let the offense make mistakes, to tire an offense out, to make them drive the field with a lot of plays. Explosive plays lift teams up, get teams fired up. The Titans are looking for them on offense to avoid all of those things that I said, and to get fired up and to have quick impact, sudden change, all of those things. At some point, being a dominant run defense has to translate into being a more dominant defense overall. And, you know, those X plays, as good as the Titans defense was in New Orleans, the X plays made it not a good enough defense. Separation. Titans receivers really did not do well getting open in New Orleans. I refer you to Blake Bedingfield's piece, his game review piece at the site on Monday. He sent me 6 or 7 shots off of the game film where the Titans, who were downfield, were just blanketed. And there was nowhere for Ryan Tannehill, who was having a very hard time, obviously, to throw the ball. I put 4 of them, you know, in a grid to give people who are reading it an overall sense of what he was writing about. Hopkins is going to win with routes, not with speed. Hopkins missed practice Wednesday and Thursday with an ankle injury that he suffered late in the game. Burks was a non-factor. Kyle Phillips is missing, but he can win with short area speed, if that makes sense, you know, and there can be some victories had there. Chigakonkwo can win with speed, but he's going to win as a tight end against, some linebackers and maybe some safeties. Tajay Spears can win with speed, also with matchups like that. And they each broke open for a touchdown catch in New Orleans on well-designed plays that were part scheme, mostly scheme, I'd say, but also speed. Speed was going to be what helped them get to the end zone, except that Ryan Tannehill overthrew both of them. This has been a problem, the Titans' inability to separate at wide receiver. So it makes Tannehill have to make tight window throws, which obviously he wasn't making in New Orleans. It may continue to be a good problem against good defense with quality rushes paired with quality personnel in the secondary. Meanwhile, we see Chris Olave getting 3.5 yards of separation on average, and Rashid Shaheed getting 3 yards of separation on average against the Titans. Shaheed, 17.8 yards a catch on 5 catches. Undrafted out of Weber State in 2022. He ran a 4.3 40 there, but he's 6 feet tall and 180 pounds. Those are listed numbers, so he's probably smaller than that, right? So that pretty much disqualified him from being a guy that the Titans would have made a priority free agent that year. Now, look, Nick Westbrook-Akine, he got open. Average separation was 2.9 yards, so he did a good job, and he was the security target for Tannehill against the Saints. But Hopkins' separation, which we're not expecting to be much, was 2 yards on average. Burks wasn't on the list that NFL Next Gen Stats puts out, and the list ended at 1.3 yards. Here's Tim Kelly on alternatives to separation and situations where he thought there was some separation.
Yeah, try to get different matchups, try to move people around. There's a variety of different things that we can do. And were there times where there wasn't a lot of separation? I think so. But there's also times where I thought guys ran good routes. A couple examples of Traylon winning some good routes and getting open. A couple examples of Hop doing it. Again, it's all about consistency. You can't turn the ball over, and we got to be able to go out there and play, winning football for 4 quarters in order to win this league.
Give me one wide receiver who can really shake tight coverage, who could break open with some consistency, who's judged to be a threat by the opposing defense. Look, we felt like once they got Hopkins, they rounded the group into better shape. I know Phillips isn't out there right now, and I know people are down on Kyle Phillips, but he is an important ingredient to the group. But the two most dangerous guys, as I said there, in terms of speed for their position, are a tight end and a running back. And I think we're going to be talking about lack of separation a lot. And if Tannehill's not playing better, throwing with more surety and accuracy, stepping into throws, showing more power and arm strength, it becomes more of an issue. And I know a lot of you are thinking, well, one of the kids is going to be playing. Well, if one of the kids is going to be playing, those kids are used to receivers being a lot more open in college and not having to throw into teeny tiny windows. And the Titans, look, they got a lot better at wide receiver with DeAndre Hopkins being on the team than DeAndre Hopkins not being on the team. He may not be on the field Sunday with his ankle. But the absence of a threatening guy who can get away from a defender to be open, like open in the NFL, which isn't extremely open, hurts this team, haunts this team. It's going to be a problem on a lot of Sundays for this team. My thanks to Jaspers for sponsoring this fine product. And my advice to you, as always, please do not block the box, but be sure to lock your locks.